I'm walking around this magnificent monastery in the centre of Porto. When you get to the corner here, and you look at the graffiti on the wall, on the left you have a chap, I love lean. Look at this soul. For tragedy cada grande fortuna a un grande uma crime. Balzac, writing in the early 19th century. Behind every fortune there is a crime. Over here, and we have Tudo Bons Rapazes, the Goodfellas. Here we've got partners in crime made famous by the famous Scorsese film, The Goodfellas. Now let's look to see in this video to what extent the fortune acquired by Roman Abramovich comrade, to what extent was his fortune acquired by a crime, and that crime would be corruption. So to what extent does the saying by Monsieur Balzac apply to Comrade Abramovich? Well, in 1995 he bought a company from the Russian state for $250 million. 10 years later he sold it back to that same state for $13 billion. That is a 52 times increase in return. That's a bit like buying a house in 1995 for £100,000 and selling it for £5.2 million 10 years later. To get that sort of return, you would have had to have spent an awful lot of money on your house, and you would have had to have put an awful lot of work and ingenuity into it to get that sort of return. Well, a return like that, to my mind, is highly improbable. But there are two scenarios that can make this happen. Two possible scenarios here. Abramovich is a genius, a self-made billionaire, and an absolute business entrepreneurial genius. And the people who are selling and buying assets on behalf of the Russian people, well, they're simply incompetent. That situation may be the case. Another situation is this: both Abramovich and the people buying and selling Russian assets on behalf of Russian people are thoroughly corrupt. In other words, they are thieves. You need to call these things what they are. Corruption is thievery. That's all it is. The question is, which scenario is most likely to be the truth? So suppose the first scenario is correct, and it's government incompetence that comes to play. Of course, his genius as well, we must remember. If that is the case, and the first scenario is correct, then we come to an inescapable conclusion. He must know that money, his fortune, truly belongs to the people of Russia. He must know that. He must have known that. Therefore, the only correct moral and ethical thing to do with that particular fortune that he acquired would have been to invest it entirely in Russia for the benefit of the people of Russia. He was an ex-governor of a Russian state, so he would have known exactly how that money could be spent for the benefit of the people of Russia. And if he had done that, no questions would have been asked, ever. But Comrade Abramovich did not invest his money entirely for the benefit of the people of Russia. He flaunted his wealth in the most extravagant of ways. that is downright obscene to the correct thinking person. It seemed to me that his main business concern was the length of his yacht. And is my yacht longer and shorter than the yacht of my fellow Russian billionaire? And that seemed to be his chief concern. In other words, not the sort of businessman you can take entirely seriously. Businessmen do think about each other and compete with each other, but they're not too concerned about the length of each other's yachts. The question that invites itself then, is Roman Abramovich corrupt? A question we can now fairly ask. So what we know about Roman Abramovich is he more closely aligned to a serious-minded businessman, or the likes of Hush Puppy, the Nigerian fraudster, the money launderer, the cyber criminal, a man who also likes to flaunt his wealth, or at least he used to enjoy flaunting it. He is now in an American jail. Who is he closer to, from our experience? The very fact I've asked that question, you can probably work out what I think. I suggest this, Roman. Take one of your yachts, pack it full of your Russian billionaire oligarch pals, and go on a cruise. Round about the place to where the Titanic sunk. Cruise around at night time, because the icebergs look pretty spectacular under the starlight. And I can suggest something for the presidential suite as well. For the love of God and the benefit of the people of Russia and the wider world, go away, Roman.